What's up, everyone? Justin here with LGBT Outdoors, and we're so glad that you're tuning in tonight for another exciting episode of LGBT Outdoors Live. Before we jump into our guest tonight, we just want to go over a few things with you. Because we are live, you have the ability to jump into our chat, ask questions, say hi. Let us know where you're watching from because we would love to hear from you. Also, if you have questions for our guest Kenneth tonight or myself, you can leave those in the comment box as well, and we'll try to get to those before the end of the program tonight. Also, if you haven't ever checked out our website, we would love it if you would take a moment to do that either later tonight or tomorrow sometime. It's lgbtoutdoors.com. We have a lot of cool stuff on there. Tonight I want to point out that we do have our store live, and our t-shirts have been really selling great recently. So if you're interested in one of our t-shirts, go snag one of those. I know a lot of people were trying to order mediums recently and we sold out, but they are back in stock. So excited for that, and new apparel hopefully will be coming very soon. Also, we have our blogs. This is a great resource for you. So if you want to learn more about hiking or fishing or just read about LGBTQ community in the outdoors, go and check it out. And if you have a great story or think that you have an activity that you would like to share with our community, reach out to us as well at info@lgbtoutdoors.com and shoot us a blog idea, and maybe we'll feature one of your blogs on our website. So let's jump into the show tonight. Tonight we have our great friend with us. Our guest is Kenneth Nalley, is joining us. He's a great friend and an ambassador for LGBT Outdoors. He's also a dear personal friend of ours, and he is joining us all the way from 3 miles down the road tonight. So in Fort Worth, Texas. Kenneth, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Before we dive into this, why don't you share a little bit about yourself, what you do for work, how you ended up in Texas, and then we'll kind of take it from there.
Yeah, so I currently work as a naturalist at the Fort Worth Nature Center and Refuge, which is one of the urban parks in the country. I actually started out volunteering here back in 2014, which led me to pursuing a career in this field and then moving around to Tennessee and Houston and then eventually back to Fort Worth. So, um, yeah, I absolutely love working in education and the science field and being a naturalist at the Nature Center at my favorite park in the world. So it's definitely a dream job for me.
That's amazing. Some days I'm a little jealous of you, I think. um, Tell us what you are really passionate about. Like, what activities do you really love when it comes to the outdoors? I know both of us are right here in the city, and that's kind of why we're having you on tonight, because a lot of people feel like we always got to go out and find these big adventures. But what are some of the activities that you found that you love doing right here in an urban setting?
So some of my favorite things to do is just hike. Um, Hiking is so underrated as a beneficial, a health benefit, mind, body, and soul. Hiking, it's low intensity on your body. It's good for you. It helps clear your mind. And when you have green spaces in the city all around you, then you're able to get out and do that still, even though you're not surrounded by countryside or by mountains or an ocean or anything like that. We're a landlocked city, but we do have a lot of hiking opportunities, and that is, I would say, my number one favorite thing to do outdoors.
That's awesome. And you're also big into kayaking.
Yeah,
We've talked recently, and we need to get together and do this, but
yeah.
you're leading night kayaking tours where you work.
Yes. So kayaking is also another thing that is a great opportunity to get outdoors in an urban setting. Any lake you go to usually is going to have, if not kayaks for rent, they're going to have the ability to put in a kayak somewhere. So that's always a great way to get city folk outside. Um, and it's also great exercise, and it's a nature experience different than hiking because you're seeing it from a different perspective being on the water.
Definitely. How did you get into the outdoors and nature? I know even You're a big bug enthusiast. Like, how did you get into this?
So when I was a kid, I loved being outside, and my neighborhood I grew up in, it was surrounded by fields, and it was also surrounded. It had a creek that ran through it. So I was always out in the fields catching bugs, and I was also in the creek catching crawfish. So my feet, I would never wear shoes. My feet were rock solid from walking on rocks. I could walk on anything. My feet were so calloused, and I was just always outside at the creek and doing things. And it was my passion as a child that I always knew I wanted to pursue as an adult.
That's awesome. That reminds me so much of me growing up. I grew up in the country, and would love to get back there one day. Um, but same story. Like I hardly ever wore shoes during the summertime, and have the callous feet, always stained green from the grass, and loved running the creeks, and had a
Yeah.
lot of the same similarities there. What made you do a career change and get into actually wanting to pursue a career in the outdoors?
So I knew since I was a kid that I wanted to be a zoologist or I wanted to be like a Steve Irwin type. Um, it's just as you get older, you kind of start to try and think more realistically of like, okay, am I going to be able to make money doing that? Is that a career that's going to go somewhere? So I did get off track and I started pursuing banking and finance. Not my cup of tea. And so not at all. So once I got back into volunteering at the nature center, when I reignited my passion, realized that's definitely what I wanted to do, and that's what made me happy. So I pursuing a degree in wildlife science at Tarleton State, and it's just on from there.
That's awesome. And you've got that degree, but you also have a certification too here in Texas, right?
Yeah, so I am certified in three different Master Naturalist chapters, and I started a Master Naturalist chapter in Stephenville, and that's a volunteer program based in environmental education and outreach. And that's how I started volunteering at the Nature Center. So it really all started with Master Naturalist, the volunteer group.
And what is a master naturalist?
So a master naturalist is someone they take a course over a 6 weeks period. You go 3 hours every week, and then on four field trips, and you essentially just learn the basic ecology of your local area. For me, it was Cross Timbers Forest here in Fort Worth. And then you take that education and you educate the public. So a lot of times master naturalists don't work in the field. They're nurses or they're businessmen and they just have an interest in nature. And so in their free time, they want to volunteer at a nature center or at a zoo or something like that. So they get that base level of knowledge first, and then that helps them be able to educate others in their community.
That's really cool. Where does somebody attend a class to get certified like that? Or where can somebody
So
learn more about it?
yeah, so there's actually Texas is one of the most active states for master naturalists, but it is nationwide. When I was in Tennessee, they had a chat by me. So if they just Google master naturalist in whatever city they're in, they would be able to find something locally, perhaps, if it's made it that far. Um, but what was your other question? Where
Just
could they find it?
how do people find out about it, and yeah, if they wanted to become certified themselves?
Yeah, so I found out through word of mouth and just signed up for my local chapter. But like I said, if you Google master naturalist in your state or area, something will come up, at least for the state.
Okay, awesome. I know that you've had a lot of cool experiences outdoors, and you've shared some with us. But I'd love to hear maybe one or two experiences that have really meant a lot to you, whether that's from when you're a kid or from where you work, or whatever that might be. Because thing about the outdoors is we take it for granted so often, even if it's just going and watching a sunrise, or camping with some friends, something that's so simple and so easy to do, but yet we take these things for granted. And so I'd love to hear maybe one or two things, experiences that you've had that have really impacted you in nature and outside.
Well, sunrises I could talk about all day because that's my absolute favorite thing about morning time is watching the sunrise. And that's an entire spiritual experience in its own. But my biggest connection to what I do and my passion for what I do is my nieces and my nephews. So they live in Houston in a huge urban area. And upon first sight, you don't see a lot of outdoor opportunities. And I saw it as my duty as their uncle to connect them to these opportunities. So they know me as the uncle that takes them birding when I come down. I take them hiking. We go to different parks. And being able to facilitate that connection to nature for my nieces and nephews and watch them grow over the years makes me teary-eyed just talking about it because it's one of my biggest joys in life to be able to connect them and then take that passion from connecting my nieces and nephews to my job and connect other children through school groups and things like that to nature. That is my favorite part of it is the connecting children to nature. 100%.
That's awesome. I love that so much, and it's so important that we are uh, teaching the next generation about the outdoors and
Yes.
getting them active. And I think that that's one thing that we're kind of trying to do as LGBT outdoors too, is because I feel like a lot of times the LGBTQ community um, gets left out of the outdoors a lot too. Like we're afraid of participating where we're going to get judged, or it's too dirty, or we don't want to do that, or we don't even know how to get started. So I love that you're teaching a younger generation as well as teaching our own community how to get active outdoors.
Yeah, we're definitely underrepresented, at least
Yeah.
upon first sight.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're working on changing that. I think a lot of people are seeing what we're doing, and it's giving them more courage to step out and get active outdoors and really realize it's okay to be gay and active outdoors. Mother Nature isn't going to judge you. The trees aren't going to judge you.
I love that. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Mother Nature is not going to judge you.
Yeah. Um, so we have a grand kind of epic trip planned with you, Patrick, my husband, and me coming up. And I feel like a lot of times we love this to fantasize about this big elaborate trip because we're in the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex. Um, and a lot of people are in similar situations and they see all these awesome pictures about, like we're going to Rocky Mountain National Park and the Grand Tetons and Yellowstone. So a lot of people feel like that's what they need to do when it comes to outdoors. But the reality of it is we can get outdoors right now where we're at. And we have been, you know, recently we're going to talk about this more in a little bit, but hiking and kayaking that we've done recently. But for people that feel like they need to put this big elaborate trip together and go have this amazing experience off in a different state or in the mountains or wherever, what would you say to them about getting active about where they are at now and not having to have an experience necessarily like that?
That's honestly such a great question, Justin, because my first realization that I wanted to work locally in the wildlife field, it can take you anywhere, all over the world. And that's exciting, but it's a lot to take on. So when I realized what I wanted to do in the wildlife field was to work in my own backyard that I grew up in, is when I was in Houston working at the zoo and going to all these local state parks and all these nonprofits and realizing the beauty of Houston that I had never seen before and seeing in Houston in a different light because of all those green spaces that I didn't know were there. So I realized that I wanted to promote the green spaces in people's own backyards for a career and let them know, like, hey, just because you live in a city does not mean that this is not a lush, beautiful green landscape that you can explore and find these outdoor opportunities in your own backyard rather than having to go on grand trips, which are nice also. But you could, on your day off, just go hiking at a local park like the Fort Worth Nature Center. I actually had a friend tell me this weekend who has grown up in Fort Worth say there is nowhere to hike in Fort Worth, and my jaw hit the floor. Coming from someone who works in a place with 20 miles of hiking trails in Fort Worth,
They said that to the
um,
wrong person, or maybe to the right
yeah,
person.
right, yeah. So, and that's a common consensus though among a lot of people. They don't realize the hidden gems in their own backyard, and it could be as small as a little green space in your neighborhood, like a local park in your neighborhood that maybe just needs a little bit of TLC, and that's a community effort. So it's layered for sure, but it's definitely there, and the opportunities are there to get out in every city.
There are, and there's so much more than what we even know, even if we would just like start expanding more. I mean, in Fort Worth, the two big ones that jump out is the Fort Worth Nature Center where you work, and of course Samson Park that we've been to. Um, Samson Park is really incredible. You led a really cool trash cleanup there not too long ago to help clean it up, but the river and the waterfalls and the elevation that you get right here in Fort Worth, yeah, it's not crazy. Oh, there's a photo, yeah, from the trash pickup you did. Um, it's not crazy elevation or anything, but I think that it would be surprising to people that live right here in Dallas Fort Worth that those opportunities are here. And then on the other side in Dallas, you know, you have the Trinity River Autobahn. It's a great place. There's a nature park right in Oak Cliff that I didn't even know about till recently that you can go hiking at. So there's a lot of opportunities around. What are some great things that people can do besides hiking and kayaking that they can do in the city? Because I feel like we could come up with a pretty decent list.
Yeah, I mean, just from where I live, there's so many empty plots that are just little plots of grass. And I was actually talking to a friend the other day, like, how fantastic would that be to make that a community garden? And how difficult would that be to get the city to get behind that? And honestly, I feel like if you have the idea and you have the passion and you have the people behind you, then the city's going to go for it. Create a community garden. If you plan on keeping it up, then do it. So, community gardens, walking around your neighborhood, getting to know locals that way, rollerblading, biking. We have a fantastic trail system, paid trail system through Fort Worth called Trinity Trails that gets so many people outside. It runs along our river system. People are out there biking, hiking, picnicking. Being outdoors doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be in nature, climbing a rock, scaling a 8,000 feet mountain. Like, it just means getting outside and getting active and connecting with the nature that's around you. It doesn't have to be a big event. It can be as much as going on a walk, drinking coffee, walking in the morning on the trail.
Yeah,
So those opportunities are everywhere for sure.
absolutely. We have a question that's coming. Oh, shout out from Chad. Totally agree. We have so many bicycle trails here that most people don't see in Chicago. That's awesome. Yeah. And I feel like most cities are that way. You know, there's so many opportunities that we don't even think about. One thing that when Patrick, my husband, and I lived in Dallas side of the Metroplex, we used to go out to White Rock Lake and we'd go grab dinner and then go out onto one of the docks at sunset and eat dinner on the dock while the sun was setting. But they also have sailboats that you can do,
Yes.
watching the sunset, sunrise that you can do. Uh, there's just so many opportunities if you really dive in. And so, like, kind of a lame excuse saying that you're in the city, so there's nothing to do outdoors because it's definitely around. Um, we did say that one of your favorite activities or your favorite activity is hiking, and we have a hiking question. So let's go ahead and bring that up for you. From Jacob. Hey, Jacob, we're glad you're watching tonight. We're going to have to get you on one of these soon, too. Curious about footwear for urban outdoor activities. I worry the concrete is hard on my legs. Any suggestions? Great question.
Yeah, that is a great question. So, since I hike for a living, that is something that I worry about. And my coworker, who has been doing this much longer than me for about 20 years now, she recommends having multiple pairs of hiking shoes. You don't want to wear the same pair of shoes all the time, especially if you're hiking often. And also, um, gel inserts. Those will also help you as well.
Good to know. Patrick and I just got our first pair of hiking shoes, and we're kind of breaking them in.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I know. I am actually really surprised at how comfortable mine are. Like, just
Yeah.
really, really comfortable. Um, we're going to be shooting some footage once we go into the mountains with them and doing a review on them when we get back. So I'm not going to be saying exactly what brands we got right now because I don't want to be necessarily supporting them just yet. I think we will. But if you guys are interested in those reviews, be sure that you subscribe to our channel so that when they come out, you get notified. Um, let's see. What are some other tips and tricks that might help people get connected to the outdoors? Are there any apps you love using? Um, people might need water suggestions on how to take water with you on long hikes, or just anything that you think could be really helpful to people getting active in the city.
Great question. So, All Trails is a fantastic app. Um, that's how I discovered most of the hiking opportunities in Dallas Fort Worth area.
Can you say that
And I
again?
just
I think
made it
it cut out. What was the name of the app?
All Trails, so
Oh,
ALLTRAILS. Um, and I would just each weekend I would go and try a different trail that it recommended. And that's how I found out there was so many amazing hiking places in the DFW area. Water, definitely, especially during hotter months, you're going to want to carry water with you. It can be cumbersome if you carry a water bottle. Camelback is what I prefer. It's much easier. It's not an extra load that you're going to be carrying in your hand. Um, and definitely make sure you're prepared for the hike that you're going on. If the trail is 6 miles, make sure you're prepared for a 6 mile hike. Snacks, water, sunscreen. Definitely in Texas, we need all those things. And number one thing, just be prepared before you go. And if you're uncomfortable hiking, if you're not the most avid hiker and you want to try new things, maybe the park you have has guided hikes. At the Fort Worth Nature Center, we lead guided hikes. So we have people who come out all the time who aren't familiar with the area. So they want us to be able to lead them around first before they go out on their own, which is actually a lot of fun. I've been on guided hikes and I lead plenty of guided hikes, and you always meet really cool people that way. So definitely recommend checking with your local parks and see if they have guided hikes available.
that's awesome. Also, I'm going to throw this out there too, that we are using the word hike a lot. And if that is intimidating to anybody, you could also just say that you are going on a walk. Last live that we did, we had Ross Jackson on, who has a great YouTube channel called Gay Man Walking. Um, Go
Fantastic.
check that out. It's awesome. He says that he isn't a hiker, but he loves walking. And so that might be something that makes it not quite as intimidating to some people. So go check out our last live from 2 weeks ago, too, if you are interested in that. Let's talk about
That's a
that.
great point, though, Justin.
Sorry,
It
what?
is essentially just and if you are intimidated by hiking, make sure to pick a trail that's not doesn't have a lot of elevation change. Any map you look at or any place you call, it'll let you know what the elevation is, the length of the trail. And if you want to go on more of just a leisurely walk, then there will be opportunities available for that as well, more than just rigorous hiking. Hiking scales back and forth on the levels.
Yeah, great advice. Let's talk about the LGBTQ community. We're probably going to narrow this down to more of the Dallas Fort Worth area since that's the area you have expertise in. Um, but this probably goes for most cities across the US. What do you feel like the LGBTQ community is like in the Dallas Fort Worth area, and how do you feel like How do you feel like it is when it comes to the outdoors? Do you feel like they are really active in the outdoors or not really active in the outdoors? Yeah, what's your overall vibe on that?
So let me preface that with I've only been back in Fort Worth as an adult 29-year-old man for about a year and a half now, maybe. So I don't have the most knowledge about the LGBTQ plus community in DFW, but from my experience, and especially since being a part of LGBT Outdoors, the LGBTQ plus community is very active in the outdoors and very active in the community. They've recently become aware of a Fort Worth Bike Club that's um, LGBT, LGBTQ plus friendly and started by LGBTQ plus folks. And also I know plenty of people that work in the outdoor community that are part of the LGBTQ plus community as well. So I've been pleasantly surprised by the amount of folks that I've met recently through LGBT Outdoors um, that I wouldn't ever otherwise known were a part of the outdoor community. So it's been really refreshing to see that there are so many there. We're just not necessarily all connected to each other, which is what we're trying to change.
Exactly. We're definitely working on that. And I think we're making huge strides on that. It's been really cool to see some of the small events that we've done recently. People from Dallas would come over to Fort Worth, and people from Fort Worth would go over to Dallas. Um, but let's expand on that a little bit. You are an LGBT Outdoors ambassador for us. Share a little bit about what that is like. Absolutely. Share a little bit about what that is like for you, what that means to you, and what that the big picture of that looks like.
So, just starting, I 100% love it. Um, like I said earlier, connecting people to nature is one of my passions in life, and being able to connect people that I identify with and I connect with um, to nature is amazing. We've done litter cleanup so far, which was so cool. I met some of my favorite people in the world during that litter cleanup. I've we've done hikes, we've done kayaking, like being able to do all those activities together and a lot, especially even with the kayaking. So many people told me I've never been kayaking before this time. And to hear that and for them to get out on the water and just have so much fun and to know that we facilitated that and we brought those people together, making me teary eyed just thinking about it right now.
Me
So
too. Me too.
yeah, and that's my friend Matt and James, and they're part of the Houston group, and they were able to make it out
And
to the fishing event. Really cool,
that's
and they
Jacob
absolutely loved
too.
it.
Jacob is our
And there's
Houston ambassador that led this fishing group. Um, Kayaking group.
yeah,
I'll
and
let you
there's
jump in.
our kayaking trip with our picnic at White Rock Lake. So the amount of connections that we've made and that I've made in the past like 3 months has just been unexplainable. Like just being able to get these groups of people together and outdoors is all you need. All we needed was a way to do that, and LGBT Outdoors was that vehicle and is that vehicle, and it's created so much positive change already. I have so many ideas of what I want to do with my local chapter as far as community gardens, adopting parks, like to change the
Yes.
perception of LGBT people in especially urban LGBTQ plus people. There's a negative connotation, almost a stereotype associated with us. And I want us to be seen as community driven, healthy, outdoor, nature loving folks that are just there to support, uplift, and help the community, not whatever attachment that people attach to us that's not necessarily true.
Absolutely. You're getting me excited just thinking about all of this. Um,
Taking myself to church.
uh, it is like LGBT Outdoors has officially been around a little over a year, so we are very new. We were planning on originally launching the ambassador program this spring, then COVID hit. I really was thinking it was going to be 2021 before we actually decided to go ahead and launch the program. But we had you and Jacob lined up in Houston that we were going to use to start the program with and see how it went. We decided to go ahead and do it, and we're following the CDC guidelines and state guidelines and everything. So we're doing everything very safely, social distancing, masks, all of that. So it's not ideal, but we're outside and we're having fun in a safe way. We're also limiting most of the events to 10 people, unless it's something that just, like kayaking, we did more just because they're so far out apart on the water. But it's really amazing to see how fast this is growing. Each event has booked up and had a wait list to be able to get in. So we wish we could just open the floodgates right now and just like go crazy with this, but we're just taking it in baby steps and making sure everything is done safe and correctly at the moment. But like, I'm with you. You and I were standing on the dock for a while watching all these people go out kayaking for the first time. And you get a little emotional about it because it's like so many of these people have never done this. And we're so excited to be able to have somebody encourage them and facilitate this for them to be able to do that. So if anybody is watching and is interested in learning more about our ambassador program, there's going to be a link down below that you can in the YouTube video below and also on our screen right now that you can
I
check out
always
more
wanted to
information.
do this. How do I do that? Thank you.
lgbtoutdoors.com
There we go.
/ local
Yeah.
chapters. So yeah. Kenneth, any last words of an encouragement or advice or anything to our viewers tonight?
Yeah, like Justin was saying, if you're inspired by what we're doing and by the ambassadorship program, and you're interested in doing something similar, or reaching out to Justin and Patrick and being a part of it, I would definitely encourage that because it has 100% changed my life in the past 3 months. Like, it's incredible the amounts and ways that it's changed. So definitely do that. Definitely get connected with your local group, and see, we are all the time. So see what's going on in your area, and what the overall group is doing. So, I encourage you to get involved with your group, with your local community, and yeah, just be part of that change that we're working toward. It is a fantastic opportunity.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Kenneth, we are going to show your Instagram in case if anybody wants to follow you or connect with you. We're throwing that up on the screen. Be sure to go and give him a follow. He's got a great Instagram and you can see some of the photos that he takes where he works and lots of sunrise photos, which I always love seeing as well. So, Kenneth, thank you for being a part of our program tonight. Thank you for being a part of the LGBT Outdoors family. We are so thankful for you and all the work that
Thank
you're
you all.
helping us do. So we are going to sign off from now, but thank you so much and you have a great evening.
Thank you, Justin. You too.
Thank you for being a part tonight, checking out what we're doing. If you want to learn more about us, be sure to check out our website. It's lgbtoutdoors.com. And until next time, remember to be kind, be true, and be you.